Hello, Seawolves, and welcome back to this week's edition of the Stony Brook Media Group. I'm Thomas Pardo.
And I'm Trinity Miller. We have a great show for you today, so let's get started.
The Supreme Court on Tuesday gave Richard Glossip, an Oklahoma death row inmate, a chance to prove his innocence as his murder conviction has been thrown out. In 1997, Glossip was sentenced for his role in the killing at an Oklahoma City motel. The state's Attorney General, Genter Drummond, concluded that the attorneys involved in Glossip's trial hid evidence that may have led to his acquittal. The High Court ruled in the majority that the prosecution, quote, violated its constitutional obligation to correct false testimony. Justice Stony Sotomayor, in rank for the majority, said there is a reasonable likelihood that correcting the testimony would have affected the jury's judgment. While Sotomayor sided with the decision, Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito dissented, voting to uphold the conviction and death sentence. Following the court's decision, Glossip's attorney called it a, quote, victory for justice and fairness in our judicial system. The date of Glossip's new trial has yet to be announced.
Turns out you can put a price on the American dream, $5 million to be exact. President Donald Trump has announced the launch of the Gold Card visa program, offering a direct path to U.S. citizenship for wealthy foreigners willing to pay $5 million. Set to roll out in the coming weeks, the program replaces existing EB-5 visa, commonly known as the Green Card, and aims to attract high net worth individuals to boost the economy. On February 25th, Trump, alongside Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, described the Gold Card as a premium green card that would bring in trillions to reduce the national debt. He argued that wealthy immigrants would benefit the economy by spending money, paying taxes, and creating jobs. The administration estimates selling up to 1 million gold cards to help reduce the national debt. While details on the application process remain unclear, the program signals a major shift in U.S. immigration policy toward a market-driven approach.
Now let's go to Christopher Yang and Imran Ahmed with the latest updates in STEM.
Thank you, Tommy. 7 planets will appear to align in the night sky on Saturday in what is known as a planetary parade. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune will come together, with all 7 of the planets being visible during the night. Planetary alignments occur due to similar orbits in an elliptic plane, causing rare events where they line up once every few decades. Smaller planetary parades consisting of only 3 or 4 planets are more common, being able to be viewed once every few years. Next time all 7 planets will align again will be in year 2050. So make sure you get your telescopes ready for tomorrow, where you might be able to have a planetary party.
Wow, Chris, that story sounds out of this world. Now in some serious news, we bring tragic news regarding measles. The first death has been reported in the outgoing measles outbreak. The victim, an unvaccinated child, died on February 26 in Lubbock, Texas, after being diagnosed with measles the previous week. As of February 25th, the outbreak has affected 124 people in Texas, including 101 children. While most cases involve unvaccinated individuals, 5 vaccinated people have also contracted the virus. The outbreak has resulted in 18 hospitalizations, and this death marks the first fatality. Vaccine exemptions in Texas are at a record high, with nearly 18% of children in Gaines County unvaccinated. This is the first measles death in the United States since 2015, when a woman in Washington state passed away from the disease. Back to you at the desk.
Thank you, Imra. Let's take a look at what's happening beyond our borders. Anjali Vishwanath has the latest in international news.
Thanks, Thomas and Trinity. On the eve of Ramadan, ceasefire talks restart between Hamas and Israel in Cairo. After yesterday's final prisoner exchange between the parties, the first phase of the second ceasefire deal is set to end tomorrow. Per the original terms of the ceasefire, Israel must withdraw from the Philadelphia corridor, which lays on the border between Palestine and Egypt, in the next 15 days. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has showed some resistance to the fulfilling of this step of the deal. Netanyahu claims this corridor as a critical element of Israel's safety and has dubbed the Philadelphia corridor, quote, Hamas's oxygen valve, or key corridor through which they smuggle supplies. His refusal to withdraw from the region endangers the already shaky truce. From across the world, threats from U.S. President Donald Trump of a U.S. takeover of the Gaza Strip to, quote, redevelop the land loom overhead as the talks open.
Thank you, Anjali. So, Trinity, what are your plans for the weekend?
Well, I'm actually going to go to the city to celebrate my best friend's 26th birthday. What about you? What are your plans?
That's, that sounds great. I'm going to Garden City to the Creole Aviation Museum, where there's a reptile exhibit which I heard about. I'm also going to the main part with the planetarium, so I am very pumped for tomorrow.
Wow, that sounds very exciting. Well, we're going to need to know what the weather is for this weekend.
Absolutely. Now let's send it to Stamatia Katsaros with the weather. How's everything looking?
It's been a bit of a back and forth with the sun and the clouds this week, as you can see from this live shot of Port Jefferson behind me, thanks to our friends at EarthCam. But today we can expect the sun to come back out with a high temperature of 48. Later on, some clouds will gather, with the winds coming from the west and a slight chance of showers later at night, with our temperature remaining in the low 40s. Saturday, we'll see the sun peek out a few times throughout the day, but our high is back up there at 53, with our low dropping down to 20 degrees Saturday night. As much as I have been enjoying this warmer weather, Sunday will be pretty chilly. Expect clear skies with a high of 34 and our low dropping down into the teens as some clouds could stream in. Monday, we can expect the same conditions, our high temperature remaining about the same, and Monday night will be clear with our low at 25. Tuesday will be warmer at 45, mostly sunny, with a 40% chance of showers after dark, the low sitting there at 37. Moving on to Wednesday, we are likely to see some rain later in the evening, accompanied by some winds. Our high is still up there in the 50s, and we'll feel our low temperature drop down to 41. We'll reach our high temperature of 52 degrees early Thursday morning, and it will be partly sunny for most of the day. It'll be pretty breezy, and our low temperature will drop down to 34 degrees near midnight. That's all for weather. Stay tuned for other updates. Back to you.
Thanks for that update, Stamatia. Now from tracking storms to tracking opinions. Tommy, quick question for you. Would you say that you're politically aware?
I would definitely say I am. What about you, Trinity?
I'd say somewhat, but could I be more aware? Absolutely. I wonder how students on campus would respond. Our very own Christopher Yang took to the street with Vyong Hao to find out.
Welcome back to another segment of Chris on the Street. I'm Christopher Yang.
And I'm Vyong Hao.
We're here to see how politically aware students are. Let's take a look. How politically aware are you?
I wouldn't call myself the most well-read, but I'd say that I keep up with the news to some degree, probably more so than most people.
Somewhat. Not all the time, but as much as I can handle.
Do you keep up with current politics?
More or less, yeah. Generally, yes.
From time to time.
And then how do you keep up with all these political events?
Usually through television, namely news like CNN, MSNBC, things like that.
I usually use several different news sources and several different social media accounts.
There's an app called Ground News, which has a lot of good unbiased sources, and it combines, left and right-wing media sources.
Usually by social media.
Mostly through the Apple News app, I would say, and then also like friends and family.
What does DOGE stand for?
Department of Government Efficiency.
Department of Government Efficiency.
Do you know what DOGE stands for?
No, I do not, but I know that it is quite ridiculous because it's based off of a Shiba Inu meme.
So, do you know what DOGE stands for?
The coin?
Who runs it?
Elon Musk.
Probably Elon Musk.
Do you know who runs the Department of Government Efficiency, also known as DOGE?
Oh, no.
That is Elon Musk.
What is the DEI?
DEI is Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
What does the DEI represent?
DEI for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion.
Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
Do you know about any recent news relating to the government and the DEI?
Yes, I know about the United States Army removing all transgender individuals. I know that they removed a lot of resources for LGBTQ individuals.
DEI programs within the executive federal branch has been cut off, and I believe that they are sending Gmails to all companies to persuade them to end DEI initiatives.
I think it was an executive order from Trump that banned the reference or inclusion of DEI in federal government.
Has anything within the political sphere affected you personally?
Yeah, frankly. I mean, cutting down on DEI is going to impact a lot of us in finding jobs, considering some of us are not exactly the desired demographic of the current institution. But personally also, I am also quite scared about the removal of gay rights, LGBT rights, because that definitely affects me.
there was cuts to NIH funding and biomedical funding, which had the potential to affect me. It ended up not, but a lot of people, like a lot of research in BME was, I know people were like tentative about that, like some of the grad fellowships and such.
Well, I do work in the World Trade Center Health and Wellness Lab, and it almost affected me because when President Trump put a halt on federal funding and put a freeze on all of that, my lab actually, which the sole purpose of this lab is to support World Trade Center first responders, which provides them health care and all that, it almost shut down. Thankfully, a federal judge blocked that, and then he reversed it. So luckily, we didn't have to shut down. So they were still able to get their health care.
Reporting from the Student Activity Center, I'm Vyong Hao.
And I'm Christopher Yang.
Back to you guys at the desk.
Thank you to Chris and Vyong in the great segment. And now to Brittany Dietz for an update on the world of sports. Brittany, what do you have for us?
Thanks, Tommy. Starting at the high school level, Zariel Makia, a senior at William Floyd High School in Mastic, was deemed ineligible to compete at the New York State Indoor Track and Field Championship meet scheduled for March 8th. Makia is one of the greatest runners in New York State history, as she has won 6 state championships between cross-country, indoor track, and outdoor track over the last 2.5 years. Makia is suspended from the state meet for running in a race against college students on February 15th, which violates the New York State Public High School Athletic Association guidelines. Her family intends to appeal the ruling in local court. Bringing it closer to home, the Stony Brook men's basketball team faced their Long Island rival on Thursday night. The men beat Hofstra 59-56 in a nail-biter to sweep the season series. Dating back to last postseason, Stony Brook has beaten Hofstra in 3 straight meetings. CJ Luster led all scorers with 19 points, and Andre Snowdy ducked with 13 seconds left for the go-ahead score. He finished the game with 8 points and 13 rebounds. Staying on the college scene, the Stony Brook men's lacrosse team is seeing a renaissance behind a totally revamped defense that ranks 8th in the country, which is 7.4 goals allowed per game. After going 4-10 last season, the Seawolves are already 3-2 after defeating Iona 11-7 on Tuesday. Stony Brook has held all 5 of its opponents, 2 of which are nationally ranked, to less than 10 goals this season. Moving up to the big leagues, the crowning jewel of the Mets offseason, Juan Soto, homered in his first at-bat with the orange and blue this past Saturday. On the other end of the subway line, facial hair is in for 2025. The Yankees lifted their ban and amended the rule on their facial hair policy. Their players are now allowed to keep well-groomed beards. Prior to this year, Yankees were not allowed to have long hair or hair below the lips. The pinstripes are going to look a lot different this year. Well, that's this week's Sports Roundup. Back to you, Tommy and Trinity.
Thank you, Brittany. Black History Month is ending on a high note. Influencer, comedian, and Stony Brook alumna Whitney Davis headlined a closing celebration with an inspiring fireside chat. Let's go to Miles Reese, who has the story.
To close out Black History Month, Stony Brook University hosted a Q&A session with comedian and religious advocate Whitney Davis, where she speaks about navigating life and religion in today's society. Let's see what this event has in store. The Q&A session covered topics like the pressures of being a religious student of color, balancing academic stressors, and being level-headed in times of despair. Students found themselves resonating with many of these things and felt that these conversations should be had much more often.
What this event really highlighted was that you can go amongst your situation. Your situation is not forever. It's only just a moment in your life. And especially us being in a time where we're young adults and being in college only for really 4 years, for such a short time of our lives, these moments will pass.
I just love that they brought her in and we could talk and I could ask a question because I asked her a couple questions myself. But I just love that, that voice was given to these Black students, especially during Black History Month, and I just love how she was here to answer. She was so personable, which I thought was amazing.
I also got the chance to speak with Whitney Davis, and she believes that no matter what your beliefs are, being open to new perspectives is the key to clarity.
Oftentimes when we enter new things, we can be skeptical, and being adults, we have so many thoughts in our thought life, logically and all the things, but when you have an open heart, I feel like God can transform you and access you in different ways that sometimes our will doesn't allow us to.
This closing ceremony ended up being a success and provided students not only with advice on navigating their faith, but with more clarity of where they fit in today's society as they embark on their religious journey. This has been Miles Reese, Stony Brook Media Group.
And that's all for this week's Stony Brook Media Group. I'm Thomas Pardo.
And I'm Trinity Miller. Have a great week, Seawolves.